everyone, my name is Kirsten and I like to read. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my January wrap-up part 2, where we will be discussing the statistics from my January reads. So if you didn't watch part 1, I will just real quickly show you the 8 books that I read in January, and then I'm going to be breaking them down and talking about the different ways that I am categorizing them and all of my statistic stuff. So first, I read Keepers of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. Then I read Descender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. A Court of Mist and Fury, also by Sarah J. Maas. The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. And The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. So as I said, I read 8 books in the month of January, which is fantastic and right on my way to getting 100 books by the end of the year. However, I did DNF one, so on my spreadsheet here I have that I read 8 books, but I also have a count excluding DNFs because, I don't know, I don't always feel like, for me, DNFing counts as completing a book, and I know it does for some people, and it does on Goodreads, but I want to track the number of books that I'm really reading without DNFs. So, I read a total of 2,897 pages in January, which is absolutely fantastic for me, and I'm really, really happy with that. So I read 5 fantasy books this month: Children of Virtue and Vengeance, ACOTAR, The Ravens, Keeper of the Lost Cities, and Asimov. I read 2 sci-fis, which are split on my spreadsheet because one was in prose and the other one was a graphic novel, and those were here. So Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Descender Volume 2. And I read 1 paranormal fiction, which was The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. The next thing on my spreadsheet talks about the length of the books that I read. So I read 1 book that was between 100 and 150 pages. I read 1 book between 150 and 200 pages. I read 1 book between 350 and 400 pages. I read 3 books that are between 400 and 450 pages. 1 book that was between 450 and 500 pages. And finally, 1 book that was between 650 and 700 pages. This month, I read 1 middle grade book, 2 young adult books, 3 new adult books, although this one, The Ravens, while it has new adult characters, was written in a very young adult style, but because it takes place at a university, I decided to classify it as new adult on my spreadsheet. And 2 adult books. This one is for sure adult. This one, I'm not entirely sure. There were some things that definitely read as adult and some things that definitely read younger than that. So I'm not entirely sure where it's classified, but on my own spreadsheet, I decided to classify it as adult. I read 1 book that was published in 2002, 1 book that was published in 2012, 1 book was published in 2015, 2 books that were published in 2016, 2 books that were published in 2019, and 1 book that was published in 2020. In terms of the representation in these books, most of these lacked representation, which I was a little bummed about, but I did have 1 book that had some LGBTQ+ rep, and that is The Ravens. There was 1 couple in here that was sort of part of the side character group that were a lesbian couple, which was really fun to read about. I also read 2 books that were published by people of color, and those are Children of Virtue and Vengeance and The Beautiful. I read 5 books written by a woman. I read 2 books written by a male, and 1 book written by multiple authors, both of whom are female. I read 4 books by American authors. I read 1 book by a Canadian author, 1 book by an English author, 1 book by a Nigerian American author, and 1 book by a Korean American author. 6 of these books were on my owned TBR, so books that I owned prior to the year 2021, and that I bought myself. I read one book that was hauled in the year 2021. I read 7 books that are part of a series. First in a series, second in a series, second, first, second, first, first. So lots of series that I'm starting. And one standalone book. The book that scored the highest on CAWPILE for characters was A Court of Mist and Fury, which scored a 10. The highest for atmosphere was tied between A Court of Mist and Fury and Descender Volume 2, which both received a 10. My highest rating for writing was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which scored a 9. The highest for plot was again torn between Descender Volume 2 and Keeper of the Lost Cities, which both scored a 9. The highest for intrigue was Keeper of the Lost Cities, which scored a 10. The highest for logic was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which scored a 9. And the highest for enjoyment was Keeper of the Lost Cities, which scored a 10. Okay, I'm not going to go ahead and read the lowest scores because they would consistently be just 1 or 2 books, which you can tell based on my lowest ratings of the month. So those were my January statistics. Again, if you're interested in hearing more details about why I felt the way I did with all of these books, please go look up my January wrap-up part 1. Thank you guys very much for watching. Go ahead down below and drop me the emoji of the thinking face, the one that goes like this, because statistics, it takes lots of thinking. Thanks very much again, guys. My name is Kirsten, and I'm so happy that you joined me today. Please go ahead and click like down below if you liked this video. And subscribe if you would like more bookish content from me. I post twice a week, so I will see you guys next time. Bye!